Hello and welcome to the Great Australian Craft Show. It's Melinda from Scrapbooking and Craft, and today we're going to make some cards and play with some paper napkins that my nearly 13-year-old daughter sells on my website as part of her business schooling learning. She's having so much fun. So we've got about an hour and a half slot today, so we'll see how far we get. So we're going to make, the first card we're going to make is these two. Now, as we go along, if there's repetitive stuff that we've already shown you, I'll cut that out of the video so I can show you as many techniques, as many different styles of using the paper napkins as we can get through. So when we get to the second paper napkin, second card, I won't show you how to adhere the napkins to paper because we've already gone through that in the first step. So hopefully that means we can get lots of cards shown. Now we're going to use some chipboard in these cards. So we've got our open baubles. So I make these. I've made these in just two sizes, but certainly feel free to email us and let us know what size you would like if you'd like a different size. All of our chipboard, stencils and foam stamps can be altered. Some can go smaller, some can go bigger. Definitely most things can go bigger, up to about 30 centimetres in diameter. Some things can't go smaller. This going smaller probably won't go as well. Depending on what you're doing, we'd probably have to do it solid if it's going smaller, but don't hesitate to ask. So welcome to the Great Australian Craft Show. I think I've already said that. So these are the two cards we're going to make first, or we're going to make one of these. So this is using our baubles and some paper napkins. So there are loads of paper napkins in our store at the moment. So when you purchase them, or you purchase them from any other place, when you get paper napkins, most of the time you get 4 images on each napkin. So they're folded in 4 when you purchase them. Sometimes the pattern is overall. So when you open it up, it is an overall pattern. Like this particular one is what I call an overall pattern. So it's just sort of the pattern continued. So you do get lots of real estate to play with when you're getting paper napkins, and they're really affordable as well. So what we need to do is we need to split the layers. So when you buy a paper napkin, whether it's from us or just from a store, they come folded, so you need to unfold them. And they either come as a 2 or a 3 ply napkin. Now, if you purchase them in a package, sometimes they will say that. Unfortunately, ours are all down loose, so you don't actually know which are 2 and 3 ply because I didn't keep the packaging to let you know. Easiest way I find to separate them, so usually when I say 2 and 3 ply, you've got one piece of napkin on the top, which is your printed design, and you'll have 1 or 2 white pieces on the back. So a napkin has around the edge a bumpy bit, and then it goes to sort of more of a flat bit in the middle. What I tend to do is like to grab the flat bit and just gently move my fingers back and forth ever so gently, and it will sort of help to separate the layers. Once you've got the layers separated a bit, you can grab the layers very gently. It is very thin paper, so you've got to be oh so gentle. If you do rip part of it, that's okay. We'll put that in our art journal pile to use in our art journal. So we're trying not to rip it for this particular technique, but they are thin papers, so sometimes they do. Don't worry if they rip, we can always fix it up. So you want to separate this white layer. Don't throw that out because you can use that in lots of card making. You can go and stamp on this one. You can go and paint on it. And sometimes I use the white ones as backing layers. So we're going to do that again, and just to see if this was a 2 or a 3 ply napkin. I can't feel any more layers. Sometimes you can sort of get to the corner and flick it with your finger and you'll see the layers start to separate. But this particular napkin is only 2 ply, which is great. So what I like to do is when I'm gluing napkins down to paper, we're going to glue them down with an iron and some Glad wrap to get a really nice smooth look. So what I like to do is, it's folded in 4 at the moment, I like to cut it into a single sheet. So I'm just going to cut along the folded lines. You don't have to be real exact with your cutting if it's a little crooked. Hey, that's okay because we're going to cut things out of it anyway. So now I've separated that from 4 layers to 2 layers. Now I find the fold again, which is along this side, so I want one single panel. Yes, I could glue all 4 panels down at once, but I find it's just easier to do one panel each. So now I've got one single square, that's one single layer. Also, I find when you cut them, sometimes the layers will separate as well. So if you do see a second layer sort of separating from anywhere along your cut lines, that indicates you've got a second layer there to get rid of. Now today I am just going to put them onto some white 210 GSM cardstock, and we're going to make a sandwich. So our first layer is obviously our ironing board cover. I don't actually have an ironing board, so I put a towel down on my desk to protect my desk. This is a heat resistant mat, a barbecue mat. So start of our sandwich is a piece of Glad Bake. Now this is what you cook your biscuits or cookies on. It's like a silicone heat-proof mat. So we need one of those to go down first. We need our piece of cardstock. Now this is just white cardstock. I have previously, and it is in the classroom from a couple of craft lives ago, I was ironing onto book text or music paper. That's really cool as well. So you can basically iron onto any paper or cardstock. I could iron it onto brown paper. Now these napkins are translucent, so just bear in mind if you do iron it onto a text paper or something that's not white, if I iron it onto like a craft, it's going to dull the colours. So I want the best, brightest colours I can get, so I'm wanting to put it on white cardstock. So we've got our Glad Bake, our white cardstock. Now this is a piece of cling wrap or Glad wrap. This is just from Woolies. This is going to act as our glue, so we actually don't need any glue for this. So we're going to put our napkin down on the Glad wrap, face side up. So obviously this one's easy to work out because it's got sayings on it. So this is obviously the reverse side, the duller side. The brighter side needs to go up on our cardstock. I'm just going to cut it off because I don't need that much hanging off onto my cardstock. This Glad wrap gets a bit fiddly, but it's well worth the technique. Whoops. Just torn my Glad wrap, but that doesn't matter. It's all going to stick down. So you basically want a little bit of Glad wrap, just slightly bigger than your piece of napkin. So we're going to put our bit of napkin down. And then we're going to put another piece of this Glad Bake on top. That protects our iron. We don't want any Glad wrap outside this piece of top Glad Bake because it will stick to your iron, and that would not be a great idea. So we're going to grab our iron. It's on the linen setting. I'm just getting my heat tool out of the way. I've got stuff everywhere on my desk. Don't want any steam or water, and we're just going to place the iron down for about 20 seconds to 30 seconds and just move it across. So I'd like to start in one spot because you've got to heat up the Glad wrap. The Glad wrap basically melts, and it will melt our napkin onto our piece of paper. Just got to be very careful with the hot iron. So I'm just going to take that off, just give it a couple of seconds to, and I can see now I haven't got it hot enough. Now if you pick up your Glad Bake and you've got this happening here, this is not correct. So we need to go back and reheat it again. Obviously I didn't stay in that spot once. So up here, as you can see, I can't flip the corner off. That's stuck down. But this bottom corner I didn't do. So basically just go over with your iron again. The more you do and the more you get to know your iron, you'll know how long to do it for. In different settings, obviously you want a nice hot setting, but you don't want steam or water. So that should be good now. So I'm just going to peel this first piece of Glad Bake up. Just going to be very cautious. This is still quite a bit hot. I don't know whether you'll see it, but you can actually see the Glad wrap, a shiny bit around here, around your napkin. Oh, there we go. If I flick it, you can sort of see it. That's glued down. So I'm just going to have a bit of a flick at the sides with my finger. This is still a bit hot, just to see any of the napkins coming up. And you can see that corner's all glued down now. So what I like to do if I'm doing one napkin, I like to do a bunch of them. So let me go and glue the others down that we'll be using in the class, and I will be back. I'll just pause the video. You don't need to see me glue down all of the ones we'll be using. We also will be using, if we get to it, we'll be using the poinsettia one, and what other one have I used? We are going to use one of these big Merry Christmas wreaths. So I tend to do a lot of these at once and just have them sitting there. So once this is cooled off, that is exactly like a piece of pattern paper. So however you use a piece of pattern paper in your crafting, you can use now your pretty napkin. Let me go and glue a couple more of these down we'll need later on, and I'll be back with the next step. Just thought I'd pop back. As I was ironing the other couple I have this stubborn corner that will not glue down. Now I've ironed it a couple of times, and the reason for that is I didn't get glad wrap there, or cling wrap there. So I've just cut off a small corner, and I can just tuck it in, and sometimes this happens, sometimes it shrinks away or moves, not a big deal. So you just pop it under your corner and it's moved again. That corner just wants to be stubborn. So just pop it down, pop our glad bake on top, and just iron it again. So if you find any little corners that are just a bit stubborn, just pop a little bit more glad wrap underneath and give them a quick iron. And now it is all stuck down. Okay, so I've gathered all the supplies we need to make these 2 cards. So I'm using, if you're interested in the paper I'm using, I do apologise, it's last year's, I believe it's Spotlight's range, Crafter's Choice, not sure. I'm deep diving my stash and trying to use up stuff. So I apologise in any of my classes if there's papers or stuff that I use and it's no longer available. But I just want to explain a bit about the papers to start with. When I'm looking at doing these sorts of cards, I want a fairly plain background. The idea in my head behind these were these baubles were hanging on a tree. So this paper pad had this sort of fantastic sort of tree design. I wouldn't want to stick my baubles on straight on this particular piece, for example, because they'll get lost. And you don't want your little embellishments that we're going to make to fight with your background paper. So bear that in mind when you are making your cards. This is a great piece. It's actually sideways. This is a great piece for the background, and then we put this other mat on top. So you see a little bit of it, but your then embellishments sit on the top. So I have, to save time, I have gone and cut some photo mats. So the cards I'm using today, I believe, are 14 centimeters in size. Just to give you the measurements, they were just some card bases that I picked up. And just in the craft colour, because that's the colour they had and they were on special. I'm a bit like that. I'm a special shopper. Okay, I apologise. These are 13.5 centimetres by 13.5 centimetres. And then my first mat is from one of a die set I have, which is 12.5 centimetres square. So you don't need to use a die to cut these. I like using a die because, or a cuttle bug and a die, because I get them straight and the right size. I can't measure paper to save my life. And this next one is 11.5. So I don't even know the name of the die set. They're just in my die box. So they just form a nice border. So you can easily cut the cut them. You can put this on a 6-inch card as well. The reason I'm doing this size card is that's what I had on hand. You'll hear that a lot in these videos. That's what I had on hand. Okay. So we've got our napkin on our piece of paper. And first off, we need to put that aside for just a moment. And we need to put some heat embossing powder on these baubles. So when you buy them, they come obviously raw at chipboard. We need to decorate them somehow. So heat embossing powder goes awesome on chipboard. And it has a bit of a shine to it, which I liked. So we're going to grab out our baubles. So the baubles come with the inner circle in the pack. I'm not going to use those today, so I'm just going to put those back in the pack for now. I will use those on something one day. So for these 2 cards, I used 1 pack of large and 2 packs of small. All the products that I use and make and manufacture in these classes will be on the website under Great Australian Craft Show number 7. Wow, I can't believe I've done 6 shows for the Great Australian Craft Show over the last few months. This year has flown by. Has anyone else felt that? And there'll be 25% off for a month after the show, so till mid-November. So you'll be able to do a lot of cards for that. So now to apply our embossing powder. If you've not used embossing powder before, it's basically crushed up plastic that melts when you apply heat. This is a silver one. Again, I don't believe this brand is available. I have a great friend that owns a scrapbooking shop, Hillbilly Scrapping. If you've come to any of our in-person classes before the shows got cancelled due to COVID, hopefully 2021, our classes get up and running again. She has a lot of embossing powders. This is basically shiny silver embossing powder. A huge variety of brands sell it. This is a Versamark ink pad. Now, it really doesn't matter what ink you use with this embossing powder because this embossing powder is opaque. So opaque means you can't see through it. So my Versamark ink pad is obviously not clear anymore. It's dirty black. If you are doing a lot of this with the heat embossing on chipboard, I would put one of these aside. This is a $5 ink pad, so it's not really expensive. Put it aside just for inking for your chipboard because there is a little bit of charcoal. These are laser cut. There's a bit of charcoal blackness on the piece. You can't remove it completely. And when you put your ink pad on it, any ink pad on it, you will get that black transferring up to here. And I'm just going to put a bit more re-inker onto this one. So I'm just using, as I said, I'm using up what I got at home. This is a glue plaid re-inker from, I can't pronounce that brand, the TSUKINEKO ink. So I'm just putting a bit of that ink on top, a bit of the glue. Basically, you need something to stick your powder to your chipboard while you're heat embossing it. And this glue tends to work. I should use the correct embossing ink, but I don't have that, so this works just as well. And I'm just going to mark this one, my chipboard, mark this one my chipboard ink pad, and then that will be what it is. So basically this is like a glue. You could apply glue to this as well. I have embossed with glue, so I'm just going to do a couple of these on camera and show you. So I'm basically tapping the ink pad onto the piece of chipboard. Piece of chipboard is very absorbent, so you do need a juicy ink pad. So I like to do this with 2 pieces of A4 just printer paper. This one I ink on. As you can see, my ink pad is all black and dirty, but you won't see that. And this is the one I tip my embossing powder on. So the reason I do that is because if I tipped my embossing powder on that other sheet, this ink would grab my embossing powder and it would be a bit of a waste. And I should have grabbed a pair of tweezers. Bear with me one moment. Sorry about that. I thought I grabbed everything I needed. So I'm just going to pick this up with tweezers. So basically I just dump my embossing powder all over my chipboard piece. Great thing about doing it on here is I've just noticed, what have I got on there? There's a bit of something. Oh, it's just a bit of paper. That's okay. Just got to be careful you don't disturb any of the embossing powder on your piece, otherwise it will leave a gap. Great thing about doing an A4 paper is you can just dump this back into your jar and make sure you put your lid on before you bring your heat tool in. So as you can see, you're not using much embossing powder at all. Looks like you dump out a lot, but 99% of it goes back in the jar. Now, heat embossing. So what we want to do is we want to use a heat embossing tool or a not a hairdryer, because a hairdryer will blow your crystals of plastic heat embossing stuff away before you get a chance to actually melt them. So what you want to do is you want to melt, I'm just going to adjust my lights just a squidgen, there we go. You want to start in the one spot, I'm going to turn it on in a second, and heat emboss here, and you'll see it go shiny. At the moment it looks like dull sparkles. I wonder if I can zoom this in, see how clever I am at zooming this in. There we go. We'll see if this works. I haven't played with zooming my camera. Hopefully it's still in focus. I really can't tell. So you'll see it go shiny and then it will be heated up. So you don't want to do this, constantly move your heat tool. You want to start in one spot and then move it slowly. On the little ones you may need to hold your pair of tweezers to stop it flying across the table. I find if you hold your chipboard piece up, it heats up a lot quicker, and you can see, oh, I've got the heat tool in the way, I'm sorry. I'll just heat a bit of it and show you. So there we go. I've heated the top of it, and you can definitely see the bottom bit of it, the powder is still there, but the top is all shiny. So just slowly moving around the circle to melt all the powder. Now, as you can see, it's quite hot, so I'm not going to actually touch it at the moment. You can see it's quite speckledy. If you don't, you can sort of see it's speckledy. If you want a smoother look, you can put a second or a third layer on top. Basically, while it's hot, you can sprinkle more embossing powder on top. It'll stick, and then you can heat it up, but I like the distressed look. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss our second large one, and I need to grab another packet of small ones, and 4 small ones, so we can, well, at least I'm going to do 1 card, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss the 2 small ones, exactly the same process, and then I'll be back with the next process. I thought I'd cut out a lot of the repetitive stuff, and then we can make several card designs with our napkins. Okay, so I've just heat embossed my 2 little baubles for this 1 card we are going to make. So now what you can do is you can audition where you want your pieces. So I can decide if I want to go greenery. I don't need to get a pattern up here, so I'm just wanting this circle. I'm going to show you a really cool way to do it. So I'm going to focus on the bird. So I'm just going to move that around till I get my bird. And then there's lots of greenery, so I'm just going to sort of position them here. So I'm going to get this card out of those 3 bits. So on this particular sheet of paper, I got 2 large ones, and then I got 2, 4, 6, 7. I got about 8 little ones all around here, just by moving this and grabbing certain pieces of the foliage. And some of them I did like this, with there was only a little bit of foliage, so you can sort of get a lot out of your napkins. Best way to cut these out is, I find, instead of trying to trace them and draw them, I want to stick them down. I don't want to stick down this flat bit here in this ring of the bauble. I just want to stick down the actual the actual ring of the bauble. So this is just craft glue. This craft glue is actually from the Reject Shop. I bought it because I like the bottle. The glue's halfway decent too, works quite well. So it's just the craft spot. I mainly bought it for the glue because it comes sealed at the top here, and I can just put a small pin prick in. And then I want to decant some of my other glue that I don't like the bottle for. I want to decant it into another bottle. That's weird. I managed to get the Merry Christmas on the last one, but I can't position that right, but that's okay. If you're clever, I just can't remember. I think I moved it over more. Over and down, doesn't matter. Work out what pieces you want your big pieces to be first, and then go ahead and put those down, and then put your smaller baubles down. I got that Merry Christmas out of it last time, but I can't remember where I positioned it. Doesn't matter. So I find it's easy to glue the pieces down, and then you have sort of a template to cut out instead of trying to trace them and cut them out. So just make sure there's no strings in the middle of your bauble. So this glue is great. It's quick drying. It doesn't take long to dry. Excuse my sniffling. It's terrible, isn't it? You can tell it's spring outside. Now what I like to do is just roughly cut quite close to the baubles. Roughly cut out. So if I was to cut off here, I can get a couple more baubles out of here. So I just roughly cut around the baubles, and I'll get a lot out of that later. As I said, you can preserve the Merry Christmas. I did do that before. I just don't know how I managed it. My bird's obviously in a, looks like it's in the same spot. I have no idea. Maybe it's in a different spot in the napkin. Maybe it's printed a bit differently. So to cut these out, I like to just cut them out singly. It's a little tricky when I stick them that close together. Now I like to do this with my fine fussy cutting scissors, and I basically just cut around the bauble. You can sort of lean your scissors against the bauble so you've got a hard edge. When it comes to this bit, because we didn't glue this down, I'm just going to fold it down and snip right across the top. Just make sure you don't snip below the circle of the bauble. So this doesn't matter how messy the back is. As you can see, I am just trimming off. I find this is an easier method than trying to trace around it and then glue a small piece of paper on. But if you are happy doing it that way, go for it. And then this one, I find because I'm right-handed, this corner is a little hard to get. So I actually just flip my bauble over, and again, using the bauble as a guide, using the chipboard as a guide, I can trim off the paper. So there we have our first bauble cut out. That didn't take long at all, and it's going to sit nicely on our card. So I'm just going to quickly pause and fussy cut these last two out. Exactly the same process. So we've fussy cut our three shapes out. Now we need to build up our cards. All the hard work's done. Apologise if you hear rustling noises in the background. They are my daughter's bunnies, and they live in the back of the room where I film. And at the moment it's time to apparently kill their cardboard box house. We give them cardboard boxes to have hidey houses in, and they decided to destroy them all. So at the end of a couple of weeks, it's no longer a cardboard box. It's a poor excuse for a piece of cardboard. So I'm just putting double-sided tape all around the four edges, and I'll show you a quick trick that I use to help line things up. I just don't want to overlap my sticky tape, so I'm just peeling up the edges of the backing tape. Just going to pull them back so a little bit is showing on the outside of the card. Now you just need to grab one end, doesn't matter which end, of the double-sided tape, so you have a tail hanging over your page. So you grab your card, and you can actually hold the tails and move this around, and because not a lot of tape is exposed, it won't actually grab, but we're going to line it up. And things are never straight when I do them, because my long-time viewers know I have low vision and I have trouble lining things up. Apologise if my head got in the way. When you got it where you want it, where your tape is exposed, just give it a bit of a press down. Hold your hand lightly on the top and just pull. And then you can press down your tape. And this allows you to line it up. I use that for card making and scrapbooking. Now that's our bottom piece. Now this is our top piece. So our top piece we want to put foam tape on. Just to lift it up a bit, and then we've got some tinsel. Where to put my tinsel? We've got some tinsel. This tinsel just came from Kmart. I don't know how old it is. It's something my daughter purchased for me. May even been last Christmas. Oops. Trying to use up stuff. But I found it and I thought it would be cute. Just looking for my scissors. I don't like to cut my foam tape with my good scissors, my good fussy cutting scissors, so I went and grabbed my Tim Holtz big scissors. So just going to put probably an overkill of foam tape, but just going to measure and, oops, don't want to drop it. Just put a decent amount of foam tape. You could also use a piece of kids fun foam. Sometimes I use scrap chipboard to just give it a bit of dimension. So I'm not taking the backings off yet. I'm just going to position that on my card, work out which way I want it, whether I want a side fold card. Well, I've got a side fold card now because that's where I stuck the paper. Just deciding where I want this bit. I think I want that bit up the top. Okay. So we're going to use some of the silver tinsel. Because I've used silver embossing powder, I like to keep it sort of in the same tones, not using gold and silver on the same piece. This is really cute, actually. It's like tinsel you put on a tree, but tiny. So I found the best way to do this was to put a little bit of double-sided tape on the back. So I'll thread it through the hole. A little bit of double-sided tape on the back of the bauble. And then I'm going to see how long I want it. And I'm going to cut it about 1.5 to 2 centimetres longer than I want it. The reason I didn't stick this down to my card yet is we're going to position these baubles and fold this over the top and just stick this down. I'm just going to take the backing off the foam tape and tuck my bit of tinsel in, and then put the backing back over it so I don't stick it down quite yet. So it can sort of just hang there. So my idea for these cards was they sort of look like baubles hanging on a tree. Does that make sense? So I'm just going to position this one here and this one here. Just working out which way I want them. Probably want them, I could sit and play all day. I like that positioning a bit better. And do exactly the same thing with these ones. I don't like to cut my tinsel off first because I don't have a lot of it and I don't really want to waste it. So we're just going to shove it, pop it through the hole, if I can get it through the hole. A little bit of double-sided tape. Just stick it on, and then want to cut it about there. This one's obviously longer because it's dangling down longer. The reason I actually don't glue my baubles down just quite yet is because if I make a mistake and put them in the wrong spot, I have the ability to take them off. So I may need to move this one over when I get this last one in. Just depends on where the positioning goes. So this would be a nice simple card to make in batches as well. If you're making the same sort of Christmas card, you could do all your napkin, iron all your napkin pieces, and then heat emboss all your shapes, stick them on, and start a production line, which would be really, really easy then to batch up these cards for all your friends and family. Wouldn't it be lovely after the hard year we've had with coronavirus this year is to make and send handmade Christmas cards to everyone? Now, I'm not happy with where that bauble is. I've got it too high, so that means I can just gently pull the tinsel and I can lower it. Now, if I'd stuck that down, I would have been in a whole world of hurt, a whole world of pain. I'm in a silly mood today, and I don't like where this bauble's situated, so I can easily move it over. Don't want to move it down, just want to move it over. So I can easily pick that up. I tend to change my mind 100 times when I'm doing things, so I like the flexibility of being able to move things around. And this one needs to go over a bit as well. When I'm finally happy with where my baubles are going, I then get the glue. So I take the little bit of backing off the double-sided tape, just so it's not, doesn't fall off later, and just put a bit of double-sided tape on the back of the cardstock, and I do put a little bit on the ring. And then all I do is pull my bauble down, work out where I want it, and give it a bit of a press down. This card's nearly done. It was a quick and easy card, wasn't it? But it looks really cute. So we have loads of napkins on the website. Alexis has got loads of Christmas ones up. So this is one particular design. There are oops, I've got to take the backing paper off. I need glue all over my fingers. So there are loads of different designs that this will work with. Could also work with pattern paper as well. If you've got pattern paper, there are some cute little tiles in this book actually they'd work with. So you don't necessarily need to use napkins. You could put little ornaments over the pattern paper as well. I like to give you lots of options when I do my classes, because then if you don't have exactly what I have at home, you can make it work with what you have. You may have die cuts instead of using the chipboard. I'd love you to come by my chipboard, but if you have a bauble die cut, you could do exactly the same thing that I've done. So just taking the foam backing off, being very gentle not to put it down until I know where I want it, and just give it a push down. And there we go. There is our first card done. I love how this twinkles. I love how you get the shine of the baubles. And it's nearly exactly the same as our first one. So by altering the pattern papers, you can actually make the cards look totally different. And this is the bird looking from the other direction. Because remember, we had one bird facing this way and one bird facing that way. That is one hint. When you're doing... I find as a, I learnt this in graphics in school, if you've got a person or a picture facing one direction, you want it to face into the card. Now, if I had this bird on this edge, sorry, I'm not in frame, if I had this bird on this edge, your eye is following the bird off to the card, off to the side of the card, but in the moment it's drawing your look into the card. Does that make sense? So if you've got a bird facing one way, try to face it into the middle of the card. You wouldn't put this bird on this side, for example. Let me go set up for my next card and we will make that one as well. I think we have time. Oh, we do. Let me check. I've got to get up to check the time. Oh, we have plenty of time. Back in a moment. Okay, so I've set up for my next card, or next two cards. So we're going to make these two cards. Oops, sorry, I keep going out of view. I'm going to make these two cards because it's using one piece of napkin. So we're going to start with this one. So I've already die cut all my pieces. I thought you didn't need to watch me die cut stuff. So again, I have got my, I'll give you the measurements in case you would like to do the same thing. So we've got our card bases. I believe they were 13.5 centimetres square. Then we've got our backing piece of paper, same green colour, just slightly different, at 12, just over 12.5 centimetres. I think it's 12.6 centimetres. Then we have got, that's all we need for this card. Then what I have done is this is the poinsettia napkin that I glued with the Glad wrap onto the white cardstock, exactly the same as we did the first napkin. What I found is when I die cut it, this square is 11.5 centimetres, and then the circle is 9 centimetres. So what I did is to make the window, I put both dies on at the same time and ran it through the machine. Yes, you can do them separately if you wanted to. What I found is when I die cut it, some of the edge of the napkin was actually lifting up. Obviously wasn't heat set as much as it should have been. So what I went is just turn my iron on again and just ironed them again, and it glued the pieces down. So this is to go on this one, and then we have a chipboard word that I've already heat embossed with gold, silver embossing powder. These are the two Christmas words we have being released this month. That will be on the website. Just get all those other pieces out of the way for the other card. So this one's quite simple to put together, but it looks quite effective as well. Again, you're probably wanting a plainer piece for the background because we want the napkin to be the main focus of the card. So I'm just going to stick this one down just with flat double-sided tape. Again, using my trick with the little, pulling off the little, if I can, oh, really? If I can get them off. Some days my fingers don't want to work with double-sided tape. Just not wanting to expose too much of the tape so it doesn't grab when I go and stick it down. This trick doesn't work if you put double-sided tape in the middle, but these cards don't need it. I could ink the edges of these cards if I wanted to, but I just decided to leave them plain. I wanted the napkin to sort of be the hero of these cards. Oh, and of course my chipboard. So just lining this up. This is hard to line up on craft. Let's put a white bit of paper under there. Much better. Dirty white piece of paper, but it still works. So just lining edges up. It's got to come down a fraction. There we go. So just pressing down where that tape's exposed again and taking off. And I've moved my rubbish bin because I was die cutting, but that's all right. I'll make a pile off to the side. So that one's stuck down. So this next one I decided to put foam tape on. This is our napkin piece. So I'm just going to work out which way I want this to go. I think I want it to go that way. Maybe make a top folding card this time. We'll make a top folding card. Doesn't matter if your cards are side folding or top folding. So just going to put some foam tape on. And I'm missing my scissors. I keep moving them to my other table. I've got a second table and I've got all my prep things on that, my die cutting machine, and I keep grabbing my scissors and things. So just going to cut this double-sided tape down to be a bit skinnier. So we can get it on. We don't really want to see it through the window, so we're just going to cut it back a bit. Again, I could cut a piece of fun foam exactly the same size as this window. I've done that before as well, but I'm just trying to use up this double-sided tape, so I thought we'll use that. So just going all the way around the card just to give it a bit more support. So I'm hoping everyone will make homemade Christmas cards this year. That would be so much fun. I'm endeavouring to make Christmas cards for friends and family, but I say that every year and it never happens because Christmas is just very busy. My daughter's birthday is 9 days before Christmas. 9 days? 14th. 11 days before Christmas. So it's a busy month, and my birthday's in November. So it's a very busy couple of months coming up. So just making sure I take all the backing off. I'm just going to be a bit gentle with this one because I have got all the tape removed because we had so many little bits, but we'll put that in there. And then we've got our chipboard word just to go across the middle of the wreath. So these are the two designs of Christmas words that I'm releasing for the Craft Alive Craft Show. They'll be on our website. They'll also be in the folder marked Craft Alive number 7, so they're easy to find, and they'll also be under Christmas. So it'll be easy to find all of our stuff. We've got a load of specials on for the week of the show and probably a few days after until I get a chance to take them off. So there we go. It's a nice quick card to put to, oh, sorry, I keep going out of frame. Nice quick card to put together. So now we're going to use the circle from that card to make this kind of funky card. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our cog reindeer that I've designed. This is one of our new releases for this month as well. He is just adorable. I've been using him a lot. So to do this card base, we are going to bring in our paper trimmer, and I'm going to score the front of the card, just putting that rubbish away, because I want the front of the card to bend back. That's the front of the card. So we're actually working on the inside of the card, and when you open the card up it looks like this. So we want to score this to be half. So we said our measurement was, I've told you before I'm no good at measuring. Double check to see if we're still recording. So it's just over 13. So if we go just over 5, just over 6.5 centimetres, we should be in the vicinity. That's our cutting blade. Nelly made a big mistake. So just put in our scoring blade. Just want to score it a couple of times. You could do this on a scoreboard, which I do have around somewhere, but my paper trimmer was closer. So now when I score this, I want to score it, I want to fold it backwards so it folds along the front of the card, and give it a good press down. I should find my bone folder, but I don't know where that is. So just going to score that down. So we've sort of got a Z shape. So in the back of this big bit of the card, we're going to stick this, which is just a decorative panel, and then we're going to stick this. So let's stick those down. So the idea was when you do writing in this card, I would write behind the circle. Whoops. So this can sit out on display. I'd put your message in this bit here or in this bit, and then your card can sort of sit. It's hard to do this. It can sit out on display. I will take some photos. I'll take all these cards outside and line them up on my steps. Usually I've got a couple of steps outside of my house which work really well for photographing. So I'll line them all up and put some still photos at the end for you. I know it's a bit hard to look at the details when it's all zoomed out. The pictures will also go up on my Facebook page as well. So I just want to make sure my Merry Christmas is up the right way. I have been known to stick things upside down. Sorry if I'm out of frame, I'm just trying to line that up. There we go. So sometimes I don't use my little tail trick with the double-sided tape if it's a smaller bit of paper, but certainly this one I will because it's a bit bigger. I went and cut all my nails the other day and I'm having trouble getting the double-sided tape off. So again, I could have put this up onto foam tape, but I decided to keep it fairly flat. I'm looking at posting quite a few of these cards this year, so I wanted to keep them sort of fairly flat in the mail because the chipboard does add a little bit of bulk to it. Okay, now we've got to make sure we get it up the right way. So which way is that? I did have it up the right way. Merry Christmas. I love this paper. I should grab a few more pads of this paper actually, but maybe I'll have a look at this year's paper. Trying not to buy paper this year. Trying to use up what I have. Okay, so we've stuck that down into the card. Now on this side, we need to put these two bits of paper on, but I believe this one is too big. That one is too big. So how big do we want to measure this one? This one I want cut at 6 centimetres. So I'm just going to cut that at 6 centimetres. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, and I'm trying to cut with a scoring blade, which does not help. Sorry for being off camera. There we go. So I want that one there, and then this one needs to be trimmed down just a little. So this one needs to be trimmed down to about 5 centimetres. I might just bring this back in so I can see a bit easier. I forgot to trim these down when I was trimming paper. There we go, 5 centimetres. Okay, now I've got to put this one on top of this one. Oh, I wonder if anyone can hear the birds outside. The birds are going crazy today. I had a lot of rain last night, so now the birds are out in full force. So this is just to go on the side panel. So that's just to go here, just to give our reindeer somewhere to sit. Just wipe the paper out of the way. Is it fun watching me stick things down? I should have put tape on all of these. Maybe next time I do a card, I will pre-tape everything and then I don't have to, I just have to take the backings off. I just find it easier to line up things when it's not actually sitting on the same base colour. That's just me. So now we've got our circle with our napkin on it and we've got our reindeer. And this card doesn't want to behave. It needs to go under a heavy book. It wants to behave and sit up, but it doesn't want to sit down while I glue it. So we want to sort of work out where we want our napkin. I sort of got mainly the poinsettia here, and this is sort of not so interesting. So we're going to stick our reindeer over here. So some double-sided tape on our just want to be careful not to put too much double-sided tape. What I want this circle is to actually, when the card is sitting flat, is to be even. Whoops. Is to be even with this circle. A little bit of double-sided tape. I do need this extra piece. I didn't want to put extra double-sided tape where I didn't want it. This card just wants to spring up today. And then we're just going to glue our reindeer down with our craft glue from the reject shop. So I just aim for the fattest bits or the biggest bits of chipboard. I don't need to get, like, I'm not even going to worry mostly about his antennas. I'm going to flick a little bit of glue on it, but you don't need to completely coat these with glue. And if you've got a strong glue, like a strong craft glue, you don't need much at all. Now we're just going to position him on. And he's just been put gold embossing powder on, like we did the silver one earlier. I thought there's not much point doubling up and showing you the same thing on each of the cards. So I like, oh, sorry, I like those two. So they're very, very cute cards. And once I put them under a book, they will sit down. And let me double check the time. Have we got time for one more card? Yes, we have got time, and this one is a very, very simple card. This one, the napkin does all the work for you. It's got your greeting on it, and all we're going to do is mount it onto a card and put a piece of chipboard on. So this is a 6x6 inch white card base, and then I've die cut our napkin panel to be 14 centimeters, and this is a piece of double-sided, not double-sided, piece of pattern paper we are going to stick on. So this one, because it is a larger piece of paper, I am going to use that trick with the tails of the double-sided tape because it's just easier. I'm loving some of the projects I'm seeing from the other exhibitors as well. It is fantastic. I think I have to cut this down a little first, just so I know where I'm putting my double-sided tape. So I've been having a look at some of the other classes people have been doing, and it's fantastic. This is a different way to do a show. I so miss the in-person shows, but this allows people from all over Australia and even over the world to join in, which is fantastic. So it'd be nice going forward if we had a hybrid of, obviously not in the same weekend because that would just be difficult. But going forward, if we had a hybrid of, what I mean by hybrid is half in-person shows and half digital shows, I think that would be great going forward. I'm hoping 2021 all our craft shows can start up again. We have Hillbilly Scrapping and I get together and do the craft shows together, mainly because I don't drive and she can drive all my stuff to the shows for me. Isn't that fantastic? And we join up and do classes together as well. We work together quite a lot. Now I'm wanting to join that up. I'm going to trim this off when I get it on the card. There we go. So I'm hoping we've sort of set our calendar for next year around Central Victoria to all the shows we'd like to do. So hopefully they can go ahead with in a COVID safe way. We'll have to wait and see. But I also am enjoying this as well. I'm enjoying filming and doing the lives, which will be happening on our Facebook page as well over the event. So just trimming this off. Sorry, I have to be quite close to see what I'm trimming. Otherwise I trim the wrong thing. As I said, super, super quick card. I'm just going to trim a bit off this side. Be careful, I'm trimming near the fold, so I can't trim the fold. Okay, so this one goes on the front. So this one is a beautiful napkin, and you almost don't need chipboard on the front, but it's not a card from me without chipboard on it, or a product of mine. So I found our little holly swirls, just looks so sweet on the side and just adds another layer to the card. But I could have certainly done this last one without the chipboard. So we do have, with the paper napkins, we do have some limited quantities. So the quantities are listed on the website. So if you are doing bulk cards, you can certainly see how many we've got. Some packages I do have a second lot of that I have not listed on the website yet. So if you are after more than what's listed on the website, don't hesitate to send us an email and ask. I just didn't get around to sorting all of our stock for this particular show. So we got at least one packet up of everything. But as I said, some of them we do have a second pack available. I will just have to go through our boxes of stock and find out which ones they are. So don't hesitate to email us. That goes for the chipboard stencils and foam stamps as well. Some of them do have quantities on them. It's just that's the quantity I have pre-cut and on hand. If for any reason my laser machines decides to have a tantrum, it's very easy to adjust our stock levels. So this just sits down here. So that was our super duper quick card, and they just look fantastic. I love the little bling of silver on them. But we've done one a side load and we've done one a top load, which that doesn't matter. So thank you very much for watching our card making with paper napkins mainly, and some of my chipboard. So we've made 6. Actually no, we've made more. Where are the others? I've actually made about 8 different cards. Hang on. I was so organised, and I put them in the pile to go out and photograph. So we've got these ones as well. So as you can see, with only a couple of napkins, we've used 1, 2, 3 napkins and a little bit of chipboard, you can get a huge variety of cards. Thank you very much for watching, and head over to the website if you're after any of these supplies, or head to Hillbilly Scrapping. I'll pop her link in the chat in a second. If you want any of the embossing powders, embossing ink pads, and Hillbilly Scrapping also sells the card bases in a variety of sizes. She has beautiful Christmas pattern paper, not the same paper I've used, but other paper. So you'll be able to pick up some beautiful Christmas paper as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again another day in the Craft Alive classroom at 4:30 p.m. Bye for now.